Hey everyone, I'm Vince. I'm a longtime Stephen King fan, and I recently started rereading King's books in order to do a series for my channel dealing with Stephen King and theology. And I thought in the process that it would be fun to try and rank those books. And then I thought I'd give myself a rubric and review them. And then I thought, well, I would share them with you, see what you think. So we'll see how far I get. I'm on Carrie. I think you'll find this review interesting whether you've read the book or not, but just in case, there's no spoilers in this review. So if you'd like a more in-depth look at the book, or you just like to talk about Carrie, or you're interested in literature and theology, I also have a video on the theology in Carrie on my channel, so you can look for that. Carrie is Stephen King's first published book. It's not the first thing he ever published, and it's actually not the first novel he ever wrote. So before Carrie, he actually wrote 3 of the Bachman books, The Running Man, Rage, and The Long Walk, but he had not submitted any of these for publication. Carrie ended up selling to Doubleday for about $2,500, well, for actually $2,500, which is equivalent to about $17,000 today. Which is a tremendous amount for him, or at least was at the time, but it's not really a great amount of money when you think about Stephen King. However, Doubleday ended up selling the paperback rights to Signet Books for $400,000 at the time, which would be equivalent to about $2.6 million today. And King made half of that, or was paid half of that. So it was a substantial windfall for him. And by the way, that is very characteristic, very common that the hardback rights will go for significantly less than the paperback rights. And so it's usually those paperback rights where the author makes their money. This book actually started off, well, like all books, as just an idea. And King says he sat down and he wrote about 4 pages, pretty much the shower scene at the beginning of the book. And then he said he threw it away. His wife found it in the trash, told him that it was really good and that he should continue, and of course he did. Lucky for us. All right, King says that Carrie is really based on 2 young girls that he used to know that he knew from his youth. Both were picked on relentlessly, and both ended up dying at a young age, one of them to suicide. King says he himself did not know exactly what to do around these girls or how to stop the bullying. He hated that they were picked on, but he also said being at such a young age, he didn't particularly know how to stop it. He says in his later life, he wondered what would happen if these girls were able to defend themselves, especially through supernatural means. And so he ended up combining them into one character, which is Carrie, and writing a book about it. While to my knowledge, King has never said this, I think it's fairly obvious that when reading the book, that the character of Sue is either based on him or based on the person that he wishes he would have been. And so that adds a level of depth to this book. My book ratings are based almost solely on just how fun they are to read. Like, to me, that's what a book should be. It should be fun to read, easy to understand. You really get into it. So my first category is readability and engagement. Carrie is engaging right from the first scene, and it's extremely easy to read. So 5 out of 5 there. Personally, I also like it when books are written with some kind of gimmick in mind, like possibly writing from different people's points of view, or switching between first and third person, or something like that. Something that makes it more engaging. And if it does, in my reviews, I give it bonus points. King tells this story of Carrie by periodically quoting made-up research papers, newspaper clippings, and even just quotations written in students' school books or on desks. So I gave Carrie an extra 2 points for this because I found that very compelling. I enjoyed reading it like that. I also gave it a 5 out of 5 on what I called serendipity and predictability. I personally can't stand when a book overdoes serendipity or luck. Like when everything just happens to fall into place, especially if the ending is all grounded on something that just happened by luck. Like the main character just happens to drop something and put his head down at the right time when someone shoots, and misses him. Or he falls back in a chair, he or she falls back in a chair and opens a secret passage. Now, to be fair, Carrie is pretty predictable, but it's meant to be. You find out a lot of things about the ending right away, but you're supposed to, and that really does play into the story. So, like I said, 5 out of 5 on that. The ending. Stephen King is kind of notorious for having bad endings, or at least endings not worthy of the story. King has admitted himself. He said that he's more of a story guy, and endings are kind of hard for him. I like to have a good ending, one that not just wraps everything up, but also where everyone gets what they deserve. Again, Carrie earns a 5 in this category. It just had a great ending. Even surprising in some ways, but definitely satisfying. And I really can't see how it could have ended any other way. And it didn't go on too long. So King also has a tendency not to end the story where he should, like to go on for page after page after, it's already concluded. But I thought this one was perfect. In fact, you might get the feeling that it starts going on too long, but then at the end, you figure out there's a reason for that. And the last line is actually really terrific. The only category I didn't give this book a 5 out of 5 in is characters. I gave it a 3. The characters, in my opinion, were not well developed, and that's kind of uncharacteristic for King. But hey, it was his first novel. And it was about high school girls, which King admits he really just didn't know much about. And he said his wife had to help him a lot in writing and understanding the characters. So I wasn't really sure how to deal with the characters because he didn't go in too much in depth with them. I didn't really know their backstories. I didn't know why they acted the way they did. And I'll give you an example that won't really give away anything. But Chris, the antagonist, says something like, Carrie deserves whatever she gets because she's always saying that she's better than everybody else. But yet, I don't know if that's true. I've never heard her say it. I don't know what her backstory is. And I'm not really sure how she copes with her mother's beliefs and her upbringing. So anyway, 3 out of 5 for that. My last category is overall enjoyment. And I gave Carrie a 5 for this. I just had a really good time reading it. I had a hard time putting it down. I will say I've read both. I've read it and I listened to the audiobook. I enjoyed reading it more because in the audiobook I felt like the sequences didn't really work. The way that he wrote didn't really work in the audiobook. And so I would recommend the hardback or the paperback for this. If you've never read a Stephen King book before, I would say this is the one you need to start on. It gives a really good taste of what he can do literarily. It's written in a fun way, it's easy to read, and you'll really like the ending. Even though the development of the characters was a bit lacking, I still gave the book overall a 5 out of 5. My goal, like I said, even though I rarely ever finish a project once I start it, is to rank all of King's books. And I assume that when I'm done, that Carrie will be in the top 5. Okay, so what'd you think? Feel free to share any agreements or disagreements with me in the comments. It would be really neat to hear them, and I'm sure it will generate some interesting conversation.